Yes, sir! Toronto Raptors news, boys. We got to talk about the mistake that ruined the Raptors season. If you guys been following this channel for a while, you know I made another video like this before early in the season, but now seeing that the Raptors are clearly not going to be making the playoffs this year, we got to talk about the mistake that got us in this position and what's going to happen next for the Raptors. What are the consequences of our mistake? What can we learn from this? All that stuff. We're going to get into it. Make sure you guys click the like button. Let's get into it, guys. So the Raptors this season have come a long way from the team that won the championship back in 2019 with Kawhi. We are no longer that team. Ibaka's gone. Gasol is gone. Lowry's probably going to be on his way out, guys. But what is the mistake that ruined the Raptors season this year? The mistake was the Raptors organization did not decide whether they wanted to win now, win this season, or if they wanted to build for the future. They did not decide whether they want to focus on winning now and competing for the playoffs this year, or whether they wanted to work on cap flexibility and build for the future, guys. Now, why do I say this? I have many examples for why I say this, but I think we can all agree that that was the mistake that ruined the Raptors season, at least one of the mistakes. Multiple missteps were made. But here are some examples as why I say this mistake ruined the Raptors season. First of all, it starts with the Gasol Ibaka free agency fiasco, guys. The Gasol Ibaka free agency fiasco, one of the few missteps in Masai Ujiri's stint with the Raptors as the not the GM, the president of basketball operations. This was one of the few missteps in his career. So as we all know, Gasol and Ibaka are no longer with the Raptors, and that's because Masai and Bobby decided to prioritize cap flexibility over keeping the two bigs on our front court. So instead of keeping Gasol and Ibaka, we decided to maintain cap flexibility to potentially sign a guy named Giannis Antetokounmpo. At the time, that seemed like a decent strategy. Lots of people had red flags about it. They felt that sacrificing, maintaining cap flexibility for a guy like Giannis, who may not even re-sign with us during free agency, is a big risk to take, but it is the risk that we took. As we all know now, Giannis did re-sign with the Milwaukee Bucks, so he will not be signing with the Raptors. So that was the first. It was a risk, and we paid the price for that risk. We prioritize cap flexibility to potentially sign Giannis instead of keeping Gasol and Ibaka. That was the first misstep. That showed me that the organization was at that time prioritizing the future over winning now. That's what I learned from that. The next thing that happened, we saw Giannis resign. So then the next thing that happened, the Raptors had to sign replacements for Gasol and Ibaka. They signed Aaron Baines and Alex Len. Alex Len got waived like a month into the season because he was horrible. Aaron Baines was not much better. So our front court has been a mess all season. Thank God we got during later in the season we got guys like Kem Birch, Freddie Gillespie, and now we've seen Chris Boucher has developed a lot this season. He's more of a power forward than a true center because of his frail size and his slim frame, the slim duck we call him. Our front court has been a mess without Gasol and Ibaka. If we wanted to truly compete and win now, we would need our front court solidified. Guys like Aaron Baines and Alex Len, we're not going to get it done. So that signing alone shows me that the front office was focused on the future and not trying to win now. But we still did not decide on whether we wanted to win now or build for the future. And why do I say that, boys? The trade deadline. The Kyle Lowry trade deadline fail. The Kyle Lowry trade deadline fail. I know a lot of Raptors fans have different feelings about this, mixed feelings about this. We're going to keep it straight up, guys. It was a fail. It was a fail on Masai's part. It was a fail on Bobby's part. It was a fail on Miami's part. It was a fail on Philadelphia's part. It was a fail on the Lakers' part. Why do I say that, guys? Kyle Lowry was supposed to have been traded on the trade deadline. The reason why he didn't get traded is because of holdups in the trade. The Miami Heat did not want to include Tyler Hero. The Lakers didn't want to include Talen Horton-Tucker. The Philadelphia 76ers did not want to include Tybalt, I believe. So those were the holdups for the trades. But either way, all teams fucked up because the Sixers would have loved to have Lowry right now. The Miami Heat would have definitely loved to have Lowry right now over Oladipo, who is re-injured himself. We don't know if he's going to be ready for the playoffs. And the Lakers would definitely love to have Lowry right now after they lost to the Blazers last night and are now fighting for a play-in spot. The Lakers are 7th in the West. They're going to have to be in the play-in tournament if they keep losing games. AD is injured. He has back spasms. He's playing through those back spasms. LeBron is dealing with ankle soreness after he sprained his high ankle. So all these teams, they should have traded for Kyle Lowry. Masai should have got the deal done. I understand they didn't want to include Taylor Horton and all this shit, but we needed to have gotten something for Kyle Lowry because, as I said earlier, the Raptors were clearly prioritizing building for the future over winning now. The only reason you don't trade Kyle Lowry this season is because you want to win now. But the Raptors are not trying to win now, which we can all see because we're not even going to make the playoffs this year. So the trade deadline failed. So after the trade deadline failed, up until that point, the Raptors were trying to win. But during the trade deadline, during March, like up until February, the Raptors were competitive. Like they were fighting. At one point, they were 4th in the East. We're all feeling good. Like, okay, the Raptors are getting better after a tough start. But then once March hit, COVID absolutely destroyed us. The Raptors got killed by COVID. In March, we went 1 out of 14. We lost 13 games. We won 1 game against the Nuggets in March. We lost 13 games out of our 14 games in March. By that point, the front office should have said, hey, it's obvious to us we are not making the playoffs this year. Even if we are, this team as currently constructed is not ready to win a championship. We're much better off, not necessarily tanking, but prioritizing development of our young players. That's what we should have been doing. And that's kind of what we did, but we didn't go all in on it. What we did instead was we would rest Kyle Lowry some games, rest Van Vliet some games, rest OG some games. But because we have so much talent on our roster, we can't necessarily just tank. Our team is too good to out-tank teams like Oklahoma City Thunder, who don't have any true star players other than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who they're sitting. We don't have our team is just too talented to out-tank teams like the Thunder, the Rockets, and the Cavs. So even if we do try to quote-unquote tank, our team is too good. We're not going to lose enough games. If the season ended today, the Raptors would get the 7th pick in the draft. That's not good enough, guys. That's one of the consequences of not deciding whether you want to go all in on building for the future or all in on winning now. We tried to straddle both lines too much, and now we're stuck in the middle of nowhere. This is like the worst outcome possible because we're not getting a top pick and we're not getting in the playoffs. All we really did this season, like what went bad this season, the consequences of our actions is we're not going to have a top 5 pick in a top 5 loaded draft. This is a top 5 draft with Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, Jalen Suggs, Jalen Green, and Jonathan Kuminga. This is a top 5 draft. Those top 5 players are like the best. Then it's a bit of a drop down later in the draft. You're just going to be kind of playing the lottery type of thing. This is a top 5 draft. If the season ended today, we have the odds that we'll get a 7th pick. Obviously, anything could happen, but that's not good enough. A 7th pick in a top 5 draft is not good enough. We could, and another consequence of us not trading Lowry, we could lose Lowry for nothing in free agency this year, as he is an unrestricted free agent. He could leave for nothing, and then the Raptors would have to just replace him in the free agency with someone else. I don't know who. Fred VanVleet would become the new starting guard. Malachi would come off the bench. Another consequence of our actions of not deciding whether we want to win now or build for the future, the Raptors' 8-year playoff streak is now ended. I believe the Raptors had the longest playoff streak in the NBA. That playoff streak now comes to an end this season as we are not making the playoffs. Those are the consequences of us making this mistake this season. But some things did go well for the Raptors. What I want to talk about now is what went well for us this season. The trade of getting Gary Trent Jr., that went well for us this season. Gary Trent Jr. fits well with our long term. He could be the shooting guard of the future. I think he's going to be better than Norm eventually. He's much younger than Norm. I believe Gary Trent Jr. is 22 or 23 years old. So the ceiling for him is much higher than Norm's, in my opinion. I believe Norm was as good as he was going to be. I think we're seeing Norm in his prime, whereas Gary Trent Jr. has not even reached his prime yet. He's still developing and young. The pickup of Khem Birch was a good pickup for us. We needed a guy that could kind of play the big man role and take minutes away from Aaron Baines. Khem Birch is a guy I wouldn't mind keeping long term. I think he does a lot of good stuff. He's a Canadian guy. He likes Toronto, so it makes sense for us to keep him. We got to develop and evaluate our roster, so we got a lot of good minutes for Pascal, Fred Van Vliet, Malachi Flynn, OG Anunoby, Chris Boucher. The list goes on. Even Gary Trent now getting some minutes. So Utah got some good minutes. Paul Watson got some good minutes. I'm sure I'm forgetting some guys, but we got to develop and evaluate who's going to be a long-term fit on our roster. And we survived Tampa, guys. Let's be honest. Like, playing in Tampa and playing in Toronto is a big difference. Like, these Tampa Bay Raptors, I think we should all just forget about this season. It was a COVID season. Put it behind us. Let's move on. Look forward to the future. So what's next for the Raptors, guys? This is a long video. I'm not trying to drag it on anymore. But what's next for the Raptors is we have the offseason coming up. In the offseason, we got a couple things that we need to do. First of all, we need to sign and trade Kyle Lowry. We cannot let Kyle Lowry walk away for nothing. I saw in the news that the Philadelphia 76ers are still interested in a potential sign and trade for Kyle Lowry this offseason. If we can get that done, that works best for both sides, as Kyle Lowry is from Philadelphia and we could get some assets back in return for him. So we need to sign and trade Kyle Lowry. We need to re-sign Gary Trent Jr. and Khem Birch. And we need to go back to Toronto, guys. This season was really fucked, honestly. I can't even watch the games. Like, I was watching the highlights from the Wizards-Raptors game. I couldn't even get through half of it. It's tough, yo. I can't even watch the Raptors right now. It doesn't even look like the team that I fell in love with, but I could ramble about this for hours. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you click the like button and subscribe to the channel. Helps the video grow. Anyways, have a great day, guys. Peace. Enjoy.